Namaskaram to all viewers of Jyotirmag. Dear viewers, as per the words of Karna, Dusshaasan tried to pull away and remove the single attire which Draupadi was wearing. She was on the brink of the highest level of disgrace and embarrassment that could be faced by any female in this world. In that moment of total despair and helplessness, forgetful of everything else, Draupadi prayed to that Lord Krishna, whom she had always known as Lord Vishnu himself. Addressing him with all his names known to her, like Hare, Narayana, Keshava, Madhava, Achyuta, Ananda, and Mukunda, and also crying with uncontrollable shame and grief, she prayed again and again, requesting him to save her and protect her from the hands of wicked Dusshaasan and others who were supporting him. Then that royal assembly, as well as the general public who had also gathered there by that time, witnessed such a sight which was most strange and surprising compared to everything that they had seen in their life. When Dusshaasan pulled off one attire, another one was seen in its place. Then he removed that one also. She was still covered with another cloth of the same type. That cursed birth by name Dusshaasan then started pulling off Draupadi's single cloth with increased speed and vigor. But irrespective of all his efforts also, Draupadi always stood covered. All his efforts in disrobing that queen were in vain. Like that, in a short while, hundreds and hundreds of robes of different colors, removed and thrown by Dusshaasan, rose into a heap. Beholding that most extraordinary sight of human cruelty and divine intervention, many of those who were present in that assembly stood up from their seats, and with their palms joined together, they praised the god. Now in a short while, the whole of that assembly, excepting Duryodhan and his wicked gang, started showering respects and praises on Draupadi and her chastity, while uttering curses on Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra, Dusshaasan, Karna and Shakuni. At that time, a frightening and thundering sound, similar to that of 1,000 lions roaring together, was heard along the length and breadth of that large assembly hall and beyond. Like an earthquake, that new assembly hall, together with that whole palace itself, started shaking, and the walls, floors, and ceilings cracked, and decorative fittings broke and fell down. Those who were seated jumped up, trembling and looking for the source of that thundering voice. Then they saw and realized that it came from that towering and gigantic figure of Vayuputra Bhim, who was seen with blood-red eyes of anger. Everyone and everything came to a standstill, not knowing what Bhim was about to do. Then in that same thundering tone, Bhim swore a royal oath, which made everyone to tremble once again. Bhim said, "Ye Kshatriyas of this world, listen to my words carefully. Nobody has spoken anything like this before, and no one will speak like this hereafter also. With these two hands of mine, I shall tear open the breast of this wicked wretch Dusshaasan, this disgraceful and evil-minded scoundrel of Bharata race, and then I shall drink his blood. If I do not do so, let me not reach those auspicious worlds which were attained by my great ancestors." Once again that assembly and those who sat there, and especially all the Kauravas, trembled like leaves in the wind. Then that assembly applauded Bhim. By this time, the robes removed from Draupadi's body by Dusshaasan had grown into the size of a small hill, and Dusshaasan was totally drained out and exhausted. Added to that, the embarrassment caused by his wasted efforts made him sit down with his head bent down. Thereupon, those who were present in that assembly and the general public together raised their voice and demanded an answer to Draupadi's question. Then, addressing that assembly, Vidura said that just like Vikarna spoke out what he thought was right, those kings who are present there also should come forward to answer Draupadi's questions. Vidura then told them that the sin of one who remains silent when he is required to speak out is equivalent to half the sin of telling a lie. And the sin incurred for giving false answers is equivalent to the sin of telling a lie. Saying so, Vidura requested them all to speak out the truth. But nobody spoke or gave any answer to the question if Draupadi has been enslaved or not. Then Karna said that since there is no difference of opinion, it is decided that Draupadi has been won over by the Kauravas in the game of dice. So Karna asked Dusshaasan to take her inside and to leave her with other female attendants so that she can start her work as a dasi of the Kauravas. Thereupon, when Dusshaasan started dragging her by hair, Draupadi once again addressed that assembly, asking them to answer her questions. She asked them why they are all silent when they should stand for what is right and when they should act as the guardians of fairness, justice, and dharma. Thereupon, Bhishma stood up and told her about his inability to decide what is right and what is not right about the Kauravas winning over her in the game of dice. But Bhishma deliberately didn't say anything about Draupadi being insulted and disgraced by the Kauravas in that royal assembly. Being the caretaker and the guardian of the Kauravas, Bhishma was responsible for stopping them from insulting and mistreating a female, that also the queen of the Pandavas, in front of everyone in that royal assembly. Thus, Bhishma, Drona, and other greats and the Kaurava princes and Karna and Shakuni were part of that act of adharma and injustice for which time awarded them with the penalty of death. When exactly that punishment will take place was only a matter of time. Just like they were all gathered together on this fateful day when Draupadi was being mistreated, once again they will all gather together in a great war when time will consume them one by one in a most deplorable and inglorious manner. None of them will die like heroes in a respectable manner. It will all be disgraceful and painful, like how Draupadi was subjected to insult and disgrace. And that will be how time will be equating their karma. At this point, Duryodhan wanted Draupadi to address her questions to the Pandava brothers. Duryodhan also said that he will grant freedom to Draupadi if Bhim, Arjun, Nakul and Sahadev declared that Yudhishthira is not their lord and they do not agree with Yudhishthira and his action of playing Draupadi as a stake in the game of dice. Thereupon, Bhim, who was elder to Arjun, Nakul and Sahadev, said like this: "This king, Yudhishthira, is our elder brother, lord and master of our ascetic and religious merits and also of our very existence, that is of our lives also. Irrespective of everything else, if he gives permission, this wretched Kaurava king and his wretched sons will not be alive anymore to continue with their injustice. The penalty for all that they have done today is nothing but death. And one word from our brother, and I will impart that justice right now and here. King Yudhishthira is our lord, and it will be like that forever." Once again, that assembly trembled when Vayuputra Bhim's word resounded in and out of its walls. Thereupon Bhishma, Drona and Vidura stood up and together they said, "Patience, Bhima, patience. Yes, you can do this and much more." Then Karna addressed Draupadi like this: "You can now go to the inner chambers and join other maids and start serving the Kaurava princess. Your past life ends here. Now you can choose any one of the Kaurava princes as your husband. And then, like how you did with the Pandavas, you can be wife to all these Kaurava princes. I can assure you that these Kaurava princes will not stake you and offer you to others like how your earlier husband staked you in the game of dice and then gave you to the Kauravas." Listening to this, Bhim took such deep breaths that being the son of Vayu and by virtue of his Vayu bell or the strength of the Vayu inside him, Bhim's deep and hard breathing shook that royal assembly and those who were seated there. Thereupon, to enrage Bhim further, Duryodhan removed the cloth which was covering his left thigh, and looking at Draupadi, he kept on tapping his thigh with his hand as if he were inviting Draupadi to come and sit on his thigh in his lap. Then once again, Bhim, roaring like 1,000 thunders heard together, swore another royal oath. You wretch Duryodhan, if I do not break this thigh of yours during the course of a great war, may I not attain any of those auspicious worlds which were attained by my ancestors. With this, flames of fire started coming out of Bhim's mouth, nostrils, ears, and eyes. And just then, from the sacred hall of that palace, where the Agnihotra and other sacred havans were performed, a jackal started howling continuously. Together with that were heard the braying of several donkeys. Vultures, which feast on dead bodies, started flying low very close to the entrance doors and windows of that assembly hall and that palace. Other birds also, which usually are seen in the battlefields, started flying low, and they made very unpleasant and cruel sounds. Bhishma, Drona, Kripa and Dhaumya jumped up, and standing on their feet, they said, Swasti, 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 and went on repeating that. King Dhritarashtra, listening to these ill omens, got frightened beyond all limits and stood up as if his seat was on fire. Then that king shouted at the height of his tone to his son like this, Duryodhan, you wicked wretch, you have destroyed everything with your cruel, diabolic and selfish thoughts and actions. You have crossed all limits of righteousness and dharma. Listen to these ill omens. Nature is communicating, indicative of the disasters that are going to befall on all of us. You are lost, my son. Nobody can save you now. And along with you, we all are also doomed. Thereafter, that king, in an attempt to console Draupadi, spoke to her like this. O queen of the Pandavas, you are chaste and devoted to virtue. You are the first and best among all my daughters-in-law. Ask for a boon. I shall give you anything you desire. Draupadi then thanked that king and asked him for the freedom of her husband Yudhishthira. Dhritarashtra said, Granted. Now you ask again. You deserve a second boon. Draupadi said, With their chariots and weapons, I ask for the freedom of Bhim, Arjun, Nagul and Sahadev. Granting their freedom with their weapons and chariots, Dhritarashtra said, O Panchali, you are the most virtuous and foremost among all my daughters-in-law. I am not satisfied. I wish to give you more. Ask for still another boon. Draupadi said, O king, I don't need any more boons from you. All I need is the freedom of my husbands along with their weapons. Now that you have granted this much, whatever else is required, they will earn them by themselves, and it won't take much time, I assure you. Without doubt, they will take back everything and they will equate everything. Already shattered by the ill omens, Draupadi's words rained terror and fear into King Dhritarashtra's mind and body. But Karna couldn't leave it like that. Karna used that situation to further enhance the wrath of the Pandavas. Karna said, No one has heard of an act like this. The Pandavas were sinking in the ocean of distress and destruction. Now they have been saved by a woman. Alas, what a destiny for great heroes to depend on a woman for their life and freedom. Enraged by the words of Karna, Bhim, like a glowing fire, approached Yudhishthira for permission to destroy their enemies right then and there. But Arjun consoled Bhim and told him that they should not respond or react upon what is spoken by men of deteriorated mind and intellect. By then, Dhritarashtra, in his eagerness to make the Pandavas happy and relaxed, spoke to Yudhishthira like this, O my dear son, go back and rule your kingdom and live in peace and prosperity. The game of dice was intended to be a friendly sport and time pass, so nothing is lost or nothing is gained. Do not keep anything in your mind. Live and rule like before with no hard feelings against anyone. Duryodhan has spoken harsh words to you today. Forget that and focus on ruling your kingdom and leading it into prosperity. O Bharata, look at me. I am old and blind, but see me as your father and always remember me and your mother Gandhari. Now go back to Indraprastha happily, and may there be peace and love between you and your cousins. Never think of vengeance. Follow the path of peace and dharma and live long and happy. Thereupon, the Pandavas mounted their chariots and returned to Indraprastha. Dear viewers, here ends this chapter of our summarized rendering of Rishi Vedvyasa's timeless epic Mahabharata. Hari Om.